All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the commission. Welcome to the, what is today? June 12th already. My goodness, I was going to say 11th. I'm one day behind. The June 12th meeting of the Traffic Transportation Commission, and we start as usual, the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. And Chrissy, we'll go ahead and start with roll call.
Commissioner Howell,
Present.
Commissioner Hammer,
Present and on time.
Commissioner Peterson, and Commissioner Hernandez.
Here.
Staff did receive an email from Commissioner Osornio that he would not be attending today.
Okay, great, thank you. So at this time, before we go into our agenda items, we start with general public comments, which is for items that are not listed individually on the agenda. So just general public comments. So at this point, is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a general public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go into our consent agenda, and there's only one item on that, and that is the approval of the minutes from April 10th. So unless there's any changes or edits, if I can entertain a motion to approve the minutes? Or do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Vote, Chrissy?
Commissioner Howell,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammer,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson, and Commissioner Hernandez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving swiftly along, we'll go into then our one item, which is an administrative report about the always popular topic of Salinas Neighborhood Traffic Management Program and Traffic Calming Policy. And again, there's no action on this. This is really an opportunity for the commission to get the report from staff and to provide some feedback to them on this report. So I think with that, I'll turn it over to Adriana.
Okay. Good evening, commissioners. Adriana Robles. I am your city engineer. I'm here with Gerardo Rodriguez, your assistant engineer, and he's with the traffic division. Okay, so tonight, like you already said, we're going to be talking about traffic calming. And the traffic calming policy, and this is a study session. So what the expectation really is we're going to present to you the program, how it works now, and we're going to talk to you kind of at a high level. And then what we're going to do is present you some options, like tell you what the issues are, present you some options for you to discuss, and then we'll take your feedback. So just so that we begin, and you heard this from our traffic engineer last time that he came and he did some little study session with you regarding just general traffic engineering. Traffic management principles, really the basis are three. It's engineering, education, and enforcement. And obviously, in order to have adequate traffic management, and what we mean by traffic management, really that means from an engineering sense, because we're the division that takes care of that branch of it. From an engineering sense, that means planning and implementing strategies, that will allow traffic flow, that will minimize congestion, and there will be an overall efficiency in transportation. So more specifically, now speaking about traffic calming, and yes, this is a very hot topic. Why do we do traffic calming? Traffic calming has a range of benefits. primarily and what people ask for is, for speeds to be reduced. But traffic calming has a safety aspect to it. It does reduce fatalities, it reduces major injuries, and that is something that the city has as a focus with regards to our Vision Zero policy. So traffic calming does have, hi, welcome. Does have aspects of it that can assist with that. It also reduces noise from traffic. It provides for safer conditions for pedestrians, for bicyclists. And depending on the type, there are ways to also beautify streets with traffic calming. And so now I'm going to pass it over to Gerardo, and he's going to give you the background of the program.
Thank you, Adriana. Good evening, commissioners. So the background of the project, the program, the policy. So the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program was adopted in 2009. From there was a gap in between of when projects began to be implemented. And they first began implemented during fiscal year 16-17. From there, as projects were being implemented or started to be implemented, the requests that were being received by staff increased, and that happened around 2017. And with the increase of those petitions and requests that came in for traffic calming, a prioritization criteria was approved. It took away the first come, first serve, and made it more of a quantifiable criteria based. The initial criteria was regarding 85th percentile speed above 30, 35 miles per hour, and then ADTs around 3,500. So that was the initial criteria, and in 2017, Council approved a resolution which made it more quantifiable, and that prioritization criteria was approved in November of 2017. And the next slide will get into more of what it includes. And from there to now, there has been over a dozen projects that have been implemented and constructed throughout the city. And now, between that gap and now, or the several past years, we've been receiving issues, concerns, questions about the policy. And that brings us to today, to the study session. I'll go through the 4 phases. So the policy in itself has four main phases when it's considering a petition. And the first phase is the plan initiation phase. And that is traffic calming requests that we receive about within a residential street that there's speeding, cut-throughs, and reckless driving, other situations similar to that. And we receive these and can receive them through email, front counter, through phone call, or lately we've been receiving quite a few through the mobile service app, Salinas Connect. And then once we receive those petitions, they're basically collected and they're put into a prioritization list. That prioritization list is something that we have brought to the commissioners before, typically around this time. The prioritization criteria has to do with traffic volume, with speeds, with collision history, the roadway geometry, and the land use, what's generating pedestrian, bicyclists to certain locations. So those are the 5 criteria within the overall prioritization of how a petition gets scored, gets ranked. From there, we bring it to the commissioners for a recommendation to council to approve that list. Based on available resources, that includes staffing and budget, we go into the next phase based on that approved prioritization through council resolution. And that would get us to a plan development, to the next phase, which would be a plan development. In the plan development, we do coordination. It's setting up a meeting with the affected residents, with the neighborhood that submitted the petition, and that's coordination with the petitioner that submitted the petition. It's coordination with school and the school district, and then council members. And there's some coordination scheduling around that to basically come up with a date to meet to talk about the traffic calming plan, which that's the purpose of the meeting. It's a draft plan that's presented, and within that draft plan that's presented to the residents, we hear their input in terms of what they don't like, what they like, things they want to add, and just their overall thoughts about the plan that goes to being developed and going to a more of a final plan for the next phase. So at the meetings, we take their inputs. We basically have a majority of consensus to say, hey, I think we're ready to take this to a vote for the whole community. At times, there has been situations where, hey, maybe there needs to be a little review on something, or they weren't quite came to a majority of consensus. So there has been where we have had second meetings. And within those second meetings, we follow up based on any reviews that had to be done or any other considerations. And then from there, that's when we go into the next phase, which that phase is the plan support. This is the third phase of the overall process. And within the plan support phase, we communicate with the petitioners and some other residents requesting updates on this phase, the plan support phase, on a more weekly basis that we follow up based on where they're at with the requirements. And we confirm with the residents, hey, is before we actually mail out, is this the plan that was talked about? Is this the plan that came to a consensus within the meeting? And from there, once we hear back from the residents, then we mail out a ballot package. That ballot package includes a letter that provides some description of the traffic calming devices, basically a summary of the process of that specific petition or project or plan. And then within that, we also provide the plan, the developed plan that came from the meeting, and a ballot where basically they have to provide a yes or no answer for do they support the plan, and then also provide signature and address. And then we also provide a prepaid envelope for them to mail back the ballot. We do have where residents can submit the petition through email, in person, or by mail. And we have received those three in combination for a specific project. And this period typically takes around 4 to 6 weeks. If we extend it, a week or 2 weeks, has to do with holidays being within the time period that they are voting. And the requirements for the plan support, so these are the requirements that the neighborhood has to meet in order for it to move towards implementation. And the initial requirement is that out of the ballots mailed out, 50% have to be returned back to the city. Within those 50%, 67% have to be in favor of the plan. And there's a little asterisk, which is just for an overall, basically the percentage in favor of the overall plan comes down to around 33-34%. And that's of the whole neighborhood that has to be in favor of. If we take the neighborhood as a whole, 67% is based off of the 50% return rate, the ballots that we get at the office. if the plan, the project, the petition, the street, the neighborhood meets the plan support requirements, then we go into plan implementation. And to go into plan implementation, previously, as we have brought to the commissioners, basically the results and provide a little background of, if we met once and if we met twice with the neighborhood, what was the results based on the ballot return rate, what was the results in favor, and then we basically have the commission recommend to council approval of the plan. And then, that takes time to take it to council for an approval resolution, where we say, hey, this is the summary of the petition, and approve for implementation. And with having that resolution of the approval of implementation, we go into construction, we go into implementation. And we've come with the commissioners, and there's certain aspects that have been, some traffic calming devices that have been installed in the city that take external resources in terms of going out for construction, bidding the project, getting contractors to bid, submit proposals, and then provide documentation, get into agreement with them, setting up schedules, and then the actual construction of the project. And at times we have come with the commissioners, with our maintenance department can assist and does the implementation of the traffic calming devices. And as part of the implementation portion, there is an after study that is done for these plans that we have implemented, these projects, and that's to bring back to the commissioners during or after, typically after 2 years is when we try to get them to the commissioners, and that's to monitor and evaluate the traffic calming devices that were installed and implemented within the petition and the consideration for the traffic calming for a specific neighborhood. And with that, I'll hand it back to Adriana.
Okay, so, basically what you're seeing here is we kind of consolidated all the comments that we've heard generally about the policy and the program and how it works. And what it all boiled down to, and what you see most prominent here, is it just takes too long. Like, the overall process just takes too long. And so Gerardo and I have really been trying to dig deep into how if the primary issue is the time it takes to get it from petition to implementation, then where can we where can we cut some time? So, and I'm happy to say this is the kind of stuff that I like to do. So then what you see here is a Gantt chart. It's just a time frame. And it's just basically like a flow chart that shows you in real time where you are in the process. So here I just laid it out, assuming a project came in today. This is our current timelines. So just like Gerardo spelled out to you the different phases, this shows you how long a project would take. What the graph actually shows is if we go with the maximum time that we've said. So the plan initiation, so we receive a petition, the plan initiation, which he just described, it's basically an 18-month process just to initiate it. And what happens there just to go a little bit more in depth, is like he said, that we receive it, we analyze it, we put together a prioritization list, and that's what you get to see. Part of what, and obviously just kind of talking through the process and how we do this, what's come up is currently we use, in order to say, hey, at some point we need to stop taking in petitions in order to analyze things, what we do currently is we take a calendar year. So we say, during this calendar year, we're going to receive all these petitions, and then we'll be analyzing them. And then once you get to prioritization, that happens always right before budget or around budget time. Well, in talking through this, the issue that's come up is, okay, well, you know, there's just too much time. There's too much time that's being spent on it. There's just the fact that we're taking it in and then waiting possibly a year to bring it back, possibly 18 months to bring it back. That I saw as an issue. And the reason is that what happens, and Gerardo had to explain this to me, what happens is when we do the analysis, the field work, we use our interns. So we have a staff of 4, might I remind everybody. We have a staff of 4, which they're awesome, but they can't do everything. So they do, we use interns for these tasks. And what they go out, they do the screen lines, they do different things where they are measuring the volumes and they are measuring the speeds out in the field. So then they bring it back, these guys analyze it, and that's how the process works. You know, they receive the petition, they do the analysis, but the analysis is really only done in the spring and in the fall. Because of the fact that, you know, what we're trying to look at is peak conditions. Peak conditions means during school year and during the ag season. And we don't want to, in a sense, cheat people by doing it during the summer. And that was the mentality. The mentality was, okay, if we do it during the peak conditions, then we're going to see what the residents actually are telling us is an issue. So, you know, we kind of talked through the various stages and the various phases of this, and we started noticing certain things that came out. Whether it's the process that we take internally in order to try to provide the best service, right, to the residents. So that was the definition, and that was how we came up with the process that we're doing now for plan initiation. So then the process, if you look at the graph, then the process, like Gerardo told you, then it goes to a draft plan. The staff puts together a draft plan. We call for where's our meeting? Sorry. Okay, we call for our meeting. The meeting, just even scheduling a meeting, getting things done within that, we're saying that takes 2 to 4 months. The reason it takes 2 to 4 months is, like Gerardo told you, there's a lot of coordination that has to happen. We coordinate with school districts, we coordinated with schools, school principals, school districts, and the reason we do this, again, for convenience of the residents, to try to get residents as close to their homes as possible, and the way we do that is typically by using, you know, their local schools. Elementary schools is what we tend to do. But that takes a lot of coordination. And then, of course, we want to keep our electeds informed, so then we have a lot of coordination that comes with notifying and really coordinating with the council's schedule as well. So again, you know, I saw a lot of time being invested in just coordination in order to do this plan development.
Can I ask just a brief question for clarification? And that's the plan development only for those projects that made the prioritization list?
Correct,
Okay, thank you.
correct. Okay. So then we move on, right? The plan, we meet with the community, the plan gets approved, then we move forward to the plan support phase. And like Gerardo said, typically we give the community the opportunity to submit ballots. Normally it's 4 weeks, we'll extend it if it's over the holidays, and then we do up to 6 weeks. And then from there comes the actual implementation of the plan that had already gotten approved. This takes 6 months if our staff does it, and a lot of that really is just about receiving materials. We order materials and we receive materials, so that tends to take about 6 months, but it takes up to 2 years. And part of that is, like Gerardo told you, is if we're going out to have a contractor do this, this is not, unfortunately, what most contractors want to work on, small projects. So we've actually been chasing contractors for some time to get some of our projects done. So that tells you, like, kind of from beginning to end, how we got here. How is it that this process takes so long? Because that is the main complaint that we hear, or comment that we hear from residents. Okay, I submitted a petition, but where is it, right? Where am I in the process? And when you have multiple petitions, and when there's limited resources when it comes to staff, limited resources when it comes to budget, now we're talking about only creating a backlog, basically. We have created a backlog. So here's kind of the meat of the topic tonight. We've come up with a set of considerations that we'd like you to discuss. And these are basically, we've already shown you what the issue is. We've shown you, Gerardo has talked with you about what the process is. And so we can start, and this one should be relatively easy because it's internal and we can definitely take care of it ourselves, which is to make an adjustment to that time frame when we can accept petitions for a specific year. So even shifting the time frame from, say, calendar year, which, in a sense, it's easier to tell people we accept it during this calendar year. But even this shift will allow staff, if some of the other ones also get implemented, to be able to do things more on a continuous basis. So that's one, and that's, I think, a relatively easy one. So what that really means, what we're saying is if we shift it from, say, January to April, what that happens is that allows staff the opportunity to do the study and then prepare the staff report for the prioritization that comes in June. So the next one really is one that I think deserves discussion, which is for us to collect and analyze data throughout the year. So like I already told you, right now, we might get a petition today. we're not going to look at it until September, October, because we are trying to get that peak condition. So as it is, the petition sits for that time frame. If we were to switch this to year-round, we might not get that peak condition, but we would be able to move those projects forward quicker. The downfall with that, obviously, would be if you don't have that peak condition that the people are saying we're having this happen in our neighborhood, means that more petitions are going to drop. They're not going to hit that threshold where we're going to say, hey, we can move it forward, and then we're going to have fewer petitions, basically, in that log. And then the following one is basically what we're saying now is, let's really, when we analyze something, let's really set more specific criteria. We do have criteria right now, and council did approve criteria, but right now, every petition gets looked at exactly the same way. So even though it's the same score, yes, I came in with a score of 40, another neighborhood came in with a score of 60, they do get prioritized if the score is higher. But at no point do we stop and look and say, this is really a safety concern. And what we need to do is at some point say, okay, it's not about, everything being the same. It's about if there is a specific safety concern, then that should automatically float to the top. That should automatically move forward. There shouldn't be this, oh, I'm going to put you on a list. Oh, we're going to, hold you there. Oh, we're going to wait until we prioritize at the end of the year. So that's one, and for this, it really requires for us to really dig deep into what our criteria is. And for that, I really want to say we're going to do this conversation as a two-step process. We're going to come back next month and have that conversation where we're going to really dig deep into what criteria we're going to use. But to go back to today's topic, really, if we start classifying these petitions into safety, that would be the worst case scenario. Traffic calming. Okay, we see a lot of cars coming through. There is some speeding we see there. It's not a huge safety concern. It's just a traffic calming petition. So then that should follow the normal traffic calming request, the same flow that we're talking about. And then the other is some requests just don't meet the criteria. And we need to be able to say that. We need to be able to say, you don't meet the criteria, sorry, this petition is denied. Currently, what we're doing is we're listing all the requests and all the everything we've analyzed, and then we take it to the commission, we take it to council, and we ask for everybody's blessing. So if we were ahead of time, basically blessing the criteria, then the criteria is what Sari told you, that you didn't, meet that threshold. Okay, so moving on. We are proposing to change the location to city-owned facilities. Why would we do this? Well, for one, it's just it would really cut back the time it takes for coordination. school districts, schools actually have a very busy schedule. We do realize that. And there is a lot of back and forth that happens with trying to coordinate with a school schedule. If we're able to move it to a city-owned facility, it's much easier, much quicker. And we have done it previously, but again, out of convenience for the residents who want to participate in these meetings, that's why we've always opted to do it in a neighborhood school. So the next one, again, is we want to set an expenditure limit. This is speaking strictly just for those that fall within that traffic calming classification. What happens now is staff really has no idea how much the community is going to want, how much a plan is going to cost. If we set a limit, then we have a general idea of how many we can get done. Because that's one of the main questions also that we get asked. How many do you do? How many can you get done? Well, we don't know until we ask the community what they want, right? We don't know until we can figure out if we can get a contractor. So if we were to set a limit, we basically are narrowing down the options, unfortunately. So there's pros and there's cons to all of this. So we're narrowing down the options of what you can select for a traffic calming device, but it allows us to move it forward faster. Okay? The next one, it's really, instead, what we do now, and part of it, it's like we're criticizing ourselves. What we do now is we keep asking for approval. We ask for people to come in and have signatures with their petitions that their neighbors agree. And then once we do that, we put together a plan and we take it to the meeting and we say, do you like this plan? And we ask for approval. Again, do you want traffic calming? Submit your petition. Do you want traffic calming? Approve this plan. And then we send out a ballot. Do you want traffic calming? Approve it again. So if I'm the petitioner, I've already said yes 3 times. How many times do I have to say yes for you to do it? So then if we change that, then what we would be doing is we wouldn't be saying, come and submit a ballot saying yes. What we would be doing would be saying, we have this plan that we've developed. We're not going to go to the community to say, hey, is this what you want? Okay, sorry, let me back that up. I got ahead of myself. If it's a safety concern, we are not going to the community to ask for approval of the plan. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our traffic engineer and we're going to say, come up with the best solution for this traffic concern. And then we're going to move that forward. We're not going to say, community, do you like it, do you not like it? Because if it's a traffic concern and unfortunately something happens and we knew it was a traffic concern, then it's a problem for the city. If it falls within that new criteria of a traffic calming project and it's following the regular process, so now after we get the community, we show them the plan, the community says, yes, we like it, then that's all we need. The people that showed up to the meeting that came out were the ones who were able to say, yes, we like it. People already signed, the people that we asked in order to receive a petition already signed. We have a plan. The people at the meeting said, yes, we're moving forward. We give them a notification. We still send mail to everybody saying this is coming, this is the project, and then we give them 2 weeks. If you hate it, if you don't want it, get in touch with us. We give you 2 weeks to get in touch with us. If not, we move forward. And instead of saying, okay, right now I get these weekly emails from Gerardo that go out to the petitioners and to anybody who attended the meeting who says, I want to stay informed. And he's like, hey, we're almost there. Hey, we need 10 more houses. Hey, here's a list. And so every week, he's analyzing how many more houses do people need, who has voted, who hasn't voted. That's a lot of staff time. That is a lot of staff time. So if we cut that out, then we're going to say, hey, we prepared for this meeting. We came up with a plan. The residents approved it. We're moving forward. If you hate it, tell us. Generally, most people don't hate them. Generally, most people say, there is a problem. We want you to fix it. We have only, in like the last few that we've done, I want to say there was only 1 or 2 people. And that's the norm. In any given project, there's 1 or 2 people that will say, I don't want it, don't put it in. But everybody else says, yes, we have a problem. So the next one. The next one really is to, unfortunately, not see you as often. When we come to the commission, we do the same thing to the commission as we do with the residents. We come to the commission and we tell you, here's the projects that, and where they fell. Here's the prioritization list. Here's what we want to move forward with. Well, then with every project, we come to you again. And we say, here's what the community said. They love it. Can we move forward? We come to you. We come to the council. And again, we're asking for that affirmation that, the community wants this to move forward. What we're saying is, okay, let's change it so that when we do the prioritization, that's you saying, go and do it. When we put together a prioritization, that's your opportunity to tell us, okay, well, what were the numbers for this one? And actually, we do tell you that in the report. We say what the findings were for each of the projects and how they got there. So then what we're saying is that's you telling us move forward with the projects. And when we take it to council, that's council telling us to move forward with the projects. So we wouldn't be coming back with every individual project to ask for approval to move forward. What instead we would be proposing is that we come to you with the prioritization list that gives you the list of all the projects. And then at the end of the year, we come to you with a report saying these are the projects we were able to get done this year. And I think if we do that, that, believe it or not, that would actually cut a number of weeks that goes into getting this implemented, because there is a 1 to 2 week process in order to get a staff report to the commission. There is a 3-week process to get it to the council. So if we're talking about even that, to get a project that the community has already approved, to get it from the commission to the council can take up to 2 months. Okay, so the other thing is, and this is specifically for those bigger projects, for those projects that we've told our traffic engineer, hey, get these done, let's work on these, is to consolidate them. And that's actually what we're doing right now with some of the ones that we just could not get a contractor to bid on them, is we're consolidating them we're making it a little more enticing for the contractors to bid on, and, you know, getting them to say, yes, I want to do that job, but now it's in different locations, but, you know, that's what they do. So I know it's a lot, but this is what I want you to think about. So this is what we're hoping will happen. So this is the same time frame that you saw earlier. That's the one in the light blue. But now what you're seeing on top of it, and this is, again, worst case scenario. What you see is you're going through the same steps, but now what's happening is we're shortening up those time frames. So the overall time frame that previously took, 2 to 4 years, we're going to cut it back 1 to 2 years. And of course, the biggest factor where we're like, okay, we still don't know how much we can cut out of, and that's why we kept it a little conservative, was the plan implementation is, can we get our contractor out there? Because regardless, any contract that the city does, it will take up to 2 months just to get a contract. So with that, we are open for questions.
Great, well, thank you so much. It is a lot to digest, and also I want to thank staff for the staff report that was in our agenda packet too, because I think reading through that, was helpful to understand all the current situation and the potential changes. So I think with that, we're going to start with questions from the commission, then we'll bring it out to anybody in the audience that has a comment about this, and then we'll bring it back for our comments and maybe some direction for you. So I think I'm going to start on my right with Commissioner. Yeah, you just got promoted. Commissioner Guerra, for any questions, please.
Thank you for having me. Sorry I'm late, guys. It's been a long day for me. I had a couple questions here. My first one was, what is your yearly budget for the year? Mm-hmm. Do you have a number of what the yearly budget is?
Our usual budget for traffic calming is $200,000.
200,000.
200,000. This year, and you may have already seen it, this year we, city manager asked that be raised. So what you're going to see is an increase in that traffic calming budget.
My next question was, when we coordinate these meetings, can we have the council member from that district there? And can the commissioners be present at the same time so we get all the feedback from the actual public while we're there? Is that possible to do that? Can we be invited if it wasn't our district?
Yes, I think that's very possible. I think that should be happening now that you say it. I don't know that we've done that before, right? Or have we?
We haven't necessarily communicated or tried to schedule it with the commissioner's involvement. As mentioned during the presentation, one of the scheduling portions within the coordination that can extend the scheduling of the meeting is that coordination with the elected officials, because we have to coordinate with different schedules. So part of what was proposed or considered for consideration is not necessarily fully on coordination, for elected officials, commissioners to be there, but instead it would be more of a notification and saying, hey, we're having this meeting, we have it scheduled, we're moving forward with the meeting, and it's a notification process. But we can provide that. We have done it with elected officials, but we can include the commissioners as well.
My next question was, the ballots that are not returned, can somebody from the community pick them up for the residents and drop them off at your office? Is that possible to do that? Because a lot of people work different timelines. There's a lot of retired people in Montevideo, a lot of people that work during the night, some during the day. We're pretty close there. If we could pick up those ballots that they cannot deliver or mail out on time, Can we drop them off at your office?
That happens quite a bit, actually.
Oh, good,
So
okay.
even our council members, they will go sometimes door to door, and they will collect ballots from people.
My next question was, if it's not a priority, can we submit a request that we have as our priority, or does that is decided only through
No.
the city?
The priority really has to fall within the criteria, right? It has to be analytical. It has to be specific items that get looked at, and it has to be something like Gerardo said, quantifiable, where if for whatever reason we get challenged, we can clearly say, here's the data that backs up that
My part B to that
prioritization.
question is, if it's a safety concern, can we expedite the process, and who do we contact for that? Or who do we communicate with to get that done?
Say that again?
The part B to that question was, if it's a safety concern, can we expedite the process through you guys directly? Do we go see you down at the office, or is it done in-house through you guys only?
Well, the petition would come in, I mean, everybody that petitions says it's a safety concern, right? But the petition that comes in, we would treat it the same at the time when it comes in. And then after we analyze it and we see that it's a safety concern, that's when we're saying that would move forward.
And then I also had a question, if the petition is denied, so we put a petition, it's denied, who contacts us and how much time, and who can we ask about that actual petition?
So the way the process works right now, really, it's not that it's denied, it's that it just falls off because of the fact that we take it to council. So it's really the council making the call at our request that certain petitions that fall below, I believe it's a 20, right? Below 20, that those be removed from the list.
And my final question is, concerns in Montebello are stop signs and speed bumps. What's less cost-effective, and how do you analyze that? And how do you put a number on which costs more than the other?
So the stops are not a traffic calming measure, stop signs.
Okay.
So Gerardo, when he starts a community meeting, this is included in every community meeting for traffic calming. That's an intersection control device. That is not a traffic calming. We will, at a meeting, if someone says, hey, there really needs to be a stop sign here, then we will analyze it, but outside of the framework of traffic calming.
Okay.
So we do take those as a separate request, and we do analyze those. And you will be seeing those because, again, those are not traffic calming, so that doesn't fall within that criteria.
Those are all my questions. Thank you. Good presentation.
Okay, Commissioner Peterson.
Just a couple of questions, and then I'll follow up with comments later. Just for clarification, the vote is residents, right? Not property owners or,
Correct.
okay. Just out of curiosity, who has the title of traffic engineer?
We have a consultant.
Oh, that's the.
So the last time
Yeah.
our current consultant is with Traffic Patterns, and
Okay. Now I know who you mean.
yes.
I was just wondering if a city employee had the title.
Unfortunately, it is very, very, very difficult to hire traffic engineers.
That's understandable. Is it possible for a neighborhood to go out and seek funding to try to do this?
Our current program has that within it. And actually, the residents of the Roche Avenue, they were proposing to do something like that. It doesn't always pan out.
It would be tough. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Hammer.
Thank you. Sorry, I was a little confused about the timelines you were talking about.
Okay,
Excuse me, the initial petition period. It is currently 1 calendar year, January to December,
correct.
and you want to cut it to April to May. So from 12 to 2 months, right? Is that what you're
Yes.
wanting to do?
Whoa, did I get them wrong? April to May?
That's what it said, right?
Could you put the consideration slide back up?
Yes.
The one that you thank you, yeah.
It's May to April.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm a little dyslexic.
Okay, so it's still going to be the 12-month window.
It's still a
except it's a
12-month.
different rolling frame.
Correct.
Okay.
It's still a 12-month window, but what we're saying is if what was it? What we're saying is by simply like tweaking that time frame, we're stopping early enough so that staff can actually go out and measure and then come back and do the prioritization in June.
Got it. Yeah, that makes much more sense. Because I was reluctant to want to recommend cutting the time frame.
No.
So
No.
okay, cool. So that allows you to do it year round. Excellent. Then, and you mentioned, you kind of answered this next question a little bit already, but speeding is a safety concern. So, but you want to dig into that the next meeting. What
Correct.
really constitutes a safety issue on an engineering standpoint, other than
Correct.
capacity or whatever?
Correct.
Okay.
Because, and if you look at some of our prior presentations that we have for traffic calming, some neighborhoods, it's like the 85th percentile was still, 28 miles an hour, which if 85% of those vehicles are going 20, then it's not really a speeding, it's not really a safety concern in that case, because most of the people are going within the speed
Yeah.
limit.
And then, so then it's just a matter of, oh my goodness, I have 20 million cars driving through my neighborhood. They're not necessarily speeding, but why are they on my neighborhood
Correct.
street? Okay.
Correct.
And then, I'm looking forward to the safety issue. That'll be interesting. So you just mentioned that you have approximately 200,000 annual budget, probably going to bump it up a little bit. I had a question regarding what would it take to get all of them done? Like, how much of a backlog? We're like 20-something in deep that are probably not funded, or because I remember several meetings ago, I thought we could only do like four units or 4 locations. Wasn't that it? Do you remember?
Yeah, you want to take it?
So in terms of the, what can we complete, basically, as Adriana mentioned during the meeting, sometimes the process that we currently have, it depends. That's basically it, because we have to set up the community meeting, we have them vote on it, we have them provide their input and saying, hey, maybe add 2 additional speed cushions, maybe add this, maybe add that. Sure. So it depends on that. But what we have seen based on staffing and the budget allocated on prior fiscal years, we've done 2 to 4 max per fiscal year.
Sure.
The list right now that we have of petitions that are going to be reprioritized and new petitions on the calendar year 2024, we have a list of 43, and that will be in a future meeting that we'll bring to the commissioners.
Okay.
But yeah, right now it's a list of 43, and I believe from January to now, we have received around 7 petitions. Okay. So that kind of already puts it at 53 petitions that we have for traffic calming.
Times 50K a pop, if you kind of average out like that.
Correct.
It adds up. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So there is a significant backlog both in units and money required.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
And then that's the current petition. The meeting location, I do like the fact that you go to the neighborhoods. Neighborhood schools are great. So perhaps, do a hybrid approach, or that's kind of what I'm thinking. If you were to do a, give the schools, hey, this is when we're looking, and give them a little bit to, the return to call, and if they don't, then move to the city location. it can be hard to get a hold of the schools sometimes. So, and I do like the, I guess, a negative vote counting. So, because 2 meetings ago or so, when I was like, for the high school or the elementary school there, I was like, just do it. It's a safety issue. Just do it. We don't need to ask for permission. So I will vote for that. Because if you just determine that it is a top priority, why are we dilly-dallying with meetings? So those are my only questions at this time. Thank you. More of a comment, really.
Oh, great questions. Thank you. Commissioner Hernandez.
Okay, the part where I'm kind of confused, why it takes so long, do you guys use the same contractors or? you know?
No, so we actually have on-call contractors, and when we approach them, last year about doing one of the projects that's been stagnant, or a portion of the project has been stagnant because we did install the speed cushions with our staff. But a portion of, the item that it's the traffic circle, it's been stagnant. We're trying to get a contractor. We reach out to contractors that are on our call list. We got 0 calls back. Nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
We approached our contractor that was already working on our sidewalks, and we said, hey, can you go ahead and take care of this? How much would you charge us? And of course, staff already has a general idea of pricing based on our projects. And so we asked them, can you go ahead and take care of it as a change order to that other project? Contractors have the right to, once you produce a change order, to negotiate. And the number that came back was horrendously high. So we're like, we're not going to waste all this money because our budget is small on one project or one aspect of one project.
Like maybe give them an incentive. You have 3 or 4 projects a year, maybe give them all to him.
That's
that'd be
exactly
the
what we're
That'd be the
proposing.
best bet because he'll be working more or less full time.
Correct. That's exactly what we're proposing. What we're proposing is to consolidate, when we have multiple projects that
Yeah.
require a contractor, we're saying we consolidate all these projects and then we
Yeah.
move forward with a
So
contract.
maybe that, all this process cuts this process in half.
Correct,
So
correct.
that's about it. Thank you so much for everything, you guys. A lot of knowledge here.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a few questions, and thank you so much for catching that on the timeline, because I wrote a note, I'm like, 2 months, that's really quick.
The staff report is correct. It's,
Yes. Yeah. So instead of, say, a calendar year, if I'm a community or a neighborhood that made a petition in November of that calendar year, they would still have to wait then until that next budget year to even, but with this new time frame, they could make a petition, they might make a petition in May, it would still wait for the next year, but they could also do something sooner and it would still be considered. So that's
correct.
great.
And again, what we're saying, if it falls within that criteria of a safety concern, of a high safety issue, then we cut that time frame altogether.
Yeah, and I did have a question about the safety concern, so, that criteria, so look forward to that discussion next month. What happens then to, it's always going to be a greater desire and a need out there than what the city's going to be able to remedy, right?
Correct.
With all of the requests and whatnot. But would the groups that are currently, all these groups that are currently on the list now, just get reprioritized based on this new criteria? And then maybe some of those that are scoring low will just not be approved because they
Correct.
don't meet the criteria?
Correct.
Okay. And then I think the idea of standardizing budget for these projects is great because then you can do as many as you can. Yet, would there be a time where a neighborhood maybe because it's the length of the street, or it would just warrant more than the $50,000 estimate to do something there? Or I guess maybe my question is going back to, in the report, you talked about, some neighborhoods got up to almost $100,000 for their desired improvements.
Correct.
What did that sort of entail? Was it because it was a longer street section that needed more?
Not necessarily. It was because the community just asked for more.
You just wanted a lot of stuff.
So when we approach a neighborhood, we basically say, the simplest, quickest way, cheapest way for us to do this is we install speed cushions, and here's the locations where we think they should go, because there is criteria also as to locations, distance between them. So then we'll say, okay, well, in this area, we can install, 2 or 3 or 4, right? And do you guys agree? And sometimes they'll come back and they're like, well, we want a radar feedback sign. We want, how about a raised crosswalk? How about a raised intersection? How about you restripe this whole area and do this? How about, and so it just kind of builds and builds. And right now, we don't have any criteria to say, hey, you're asking for too much. Right now, we just say, okay, well, who's in favor? And they all say, we are. And so then that's how that, kind of the discrepancy happens between neighborhoods, because you'll go to some neighborhood and you'll show them the plan, and they'll go, great, can we just adjust this one over here? And they'll, great, let's move forward. But maybe they didn't know that they could ask. We tell everybody the same thing. We have a book, we have a toolkit. There's multiple ways of addressing this issue. Do you like the plan? Some communities will say yes, other communities say we want.
So in a way, it's giving the neighborhood the budget to work in.
Correct. In a way, it's giving away the budget.
And then the money can go farther, hopefully. Yeah.
Correct.
And then to the point about meeting locations, I know the city has community centers, and things like that outside of just what we may think about this particular building. But yeah, I think, that would be one thought, is how do we just really make sure that when we're having these meetings, making it accessible to people. And let's see. I think I just have comments after that, so we'll do the comment period. But thank you so much. Those are my
Okay,
questions
thank
for now. So with that, we'll now go to members of the public, and we'd love to hear from the folks that are here. And please step forward, and we'll entertain any public comments. Is there anybody that wishes to?
Do you also, or who am I? To us, okay.
Yeah, and if you have any question, we can note your question, and then we could
Okay,
ask
so
staff.
I'm a college student. This is my first time.
Oh,
doing it.
welcome.
Thank you. Does this have to do with parking as well, or is this just speed?
This is just traffic calming. So when you think about driving on a street in a neighborhood where there's maybe a speed bump or things like that, it's that process. So we're not talking about parking.
Got it, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Yolanda. Let's see, where should I start? Racing in neighborhoods, donuts, all that kind of thing. With more people moving in with more children, it's not as safe as it used to be. We have a street on Little River. The neighborhood, that corner of the neighborhood has anywhere from 5 to 12 little boys, ages 10 to 13, that love to ride the bicycles over the speed cushions. My concern is there's also a very sharp curve as you turn onto Little River to go to Lexington. And it's used a lot by the people that are dropping off the kids in the school at Alvarez or the elementary schools. My concern is can the curve be painted? What I'd like to know is, we already have speed cushions. Those particular families have asked for maybe another speed cushion, but can the curve be painted red? Because one of the main issues that we have is the apartments across from where we live in the Safeway side, they're parking on Little River now. So the street is filled with cars on both sides, especially on the curved area. That whole area on Little River as you turn from Manchester or from Constitution onto Manchester and Little River, both sides are full of cars. So full of cars, children and bikes, and we used to have a lot of accidents. It has slowed down a bit, but when it's school traffic, I'm just wondering, is there any way that we can do like painting the curbs so people can't park there where that sharp curve is? That would be one of the solutions that I would think of. Instead of spending all this money, maybe an additional cushion. But the other thing is this area that I'm talking about, okay, so it's safety first. So we wouldn't have to get the whole neighborhood involved if it was just that one street where the children are playing. I mean, all the kids are now playing on the streets. They want to make it a friendly atmosphere for children. So I don't know what solution would be to, unless you lower the speed limit to 15 miles an hour, but because they avoid the intersection at Independence and Constitution, they turn into our neighborhood. So they drive very fast. That's why they're avoiding the intersection, so they don't have to stop. So I'm just concerned because now we're having more children on the streets playing. And you have kids, some kids that are as little as 3 and 4 that love to run on the street. Mm-hmm. And they go with their parents, but I mean, they're little, and there's a lot of cars that are starting to park there. So I'm just concerned about that. Maybe I'll work with Paul so we can come up with something since he's our traffic commissioner there. So, but I just wanted to see would this be a possibility that we could just paint the curve red to start off with instead of doing all the paperwork, because to me, it's urgent. To me, it's like if one of those little kids gets hurt or killed, I'm going to feel responsible because they've come to me. And I feel that it's something that I need to take care of. Those little treasures, but there's too many of them. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think, seeing no other comments, and I think what I want to do too before we end the meeting, maybe we'll give you a chance to do general public comment, because it sounds like maybe you just missed that opportunity at the beginning for your question. So I think we'll bring it back now to any final comments from commissioners, feedback for these potential changes. And I'll start here to my left. Or Commissioner Hernandez, did you have any other final comments?
Nothing. I'm just.
Okay. Commissioner Hammer?
Sorry. It sounds like you guys thought this through, and you don't have to ask us for permission and the council for permission to do certain things. I think it's almost like a trickle-down effect where city council picked the city manager is in charge of all the hiring and firing and whatnot. So as long as that's happening, I don't know why some of these are coming to us. So I applaud you guys' effort to streamline, make it easier, and depending on the project, it sounds like you can almost crank these out in 6 months, especially if they're just speed cushions and not necessarily the entire redesigned intersection with raised crosswalks and whatnot. So although I want to see some of those, I really do, but I think this sounds like a really good way to speed things up. Thank you, guys.
Commissioner Peterson?
A few things. I just got back from Portland, and I had a great chance to see a lot of Portland when I got totally lost for a couple hours. And I noticed they have a lot of things. I did not notice traffic calming, but I did notice a lot of 25 and even 20-mile-an-hour speed limits on sometimes major streets, and people were actually going that speed or even less. It was interesting, and I don't know if we can tap into that attitude, but that would be great. I live on Cherokee Drive. We're hoping for some sort of traffic calming. The Brickers have been here several times. They live on Swanner. They've been hoping for traffic calming for a long time. I like the idea about city facilities. There's a lot more control there. You don't have to debate with a school. And I'm blanking on the guy's name. He lives in District 5. He's got some ideas for revamping the process. I'm actually surprised he's not here. He's been here for some of these, so don't be surprised if he pops up again. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Guerra, final comments?
Yes, I have a couple. I really like that you guys went in depth to explain how long it takes to have a project done. Just to the fact that, I'm pretty active in my community, and for me to put in paperwork to get something done and then to see the process, just what you showed me, I'm not gonna expect anything until next year probably, or I even get an answer. But it's great that the community gets to know. Now I can bring this back to them and let them know it takes a while to do things because they keep getting on me. What happened to the stop sign? What happened to the speed bumps? And I have to tell them, now I know what's going on. I took pictures. I'm going to show them to them when I have my meeting and let them know that it's a process. It doesn't get done right away, so don't think it's going to get done overnight. My other comment was, we have a pretty nice park. If we cannot get a building, could we have our meeting in the park? That's where we started doing ours. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Great idea. It's a city facility, right? We'll just be outside in the sun. Yeah, just echoing some of the comments, I think, thank you for all the work you put into this, really thoughtful. And having been on this commission for many years, a lot of feedback from residents that we hear, various commission members over the years, and certainly council members. And I do agree that it always did seem sort of odd when this body and then ultimately the council approved that prioritization list, and then we still had those neighborhoods coming back that we had to approve. So I think if it can cut out a month or two here and there for residents to see that the process has been streamlined and we're doing the best we can to meet their needs, I think that's great. So thank you so much. And I think we'll just look forward to the next month's discussion about some of that other criteria. So thank you. So with that, I think, and if it's okay with the commissioners here, I want to open it back up to general public comment, and that might spur some of our final comments too, because I know Yolanda addressed parking too, but please, if you wanted to make another comment, please come up to the podium.
My comment was more because there's so many more of us renting now that the traffic calming affects our vehicles because we get hit sometimes because people are speeding. So my concern was with us having 4 different roommates in one house and that being common in the neighborhood is paint lines where we park our cars because that would also maybe deter them from speeding. And to see that, yes, this is actually kind of a parking lot.
You mean like the actual lines, like the brackets?
Yes, sir. Because
No, thank you for
of the
clarifying that.
damage to mine and several of my friends have been through the same thing where, traffic calming lines, again, would protect our vehicles a little bit better.
Interesting comment. Yeah, thank you. I'm thinking of like on Riker Street where they've got, the lines provide a lane as a driver, you know, then, and cars can park in there, but you've got that lane that's registering the barrier. A visible line, yeah, thank you.
Riker has traffic signals too.
I know. It's right by my house.
I'm back.
You had another comment, Yolanda.
Yes, I do. So with this donuts and the speeding, my understanding was that a police has to see it in order for them to get a citation. Is there any way that we can just maybe find out if we could use a video, or if we know the address where these people are parking, or where they live? Can we submit that to the police? But again, they're going to say they want to see it. So that's a big concern. So it's in the DMV book that reckless driving is an offense. But if the police are never in the neighborhood to watch it, but neighbors are, which they've even confronted some of the neighbors, and it turns out to be ugly, to the point that they said, I think they told one of my neighbors, this is not barrio. But not that barrio does that all the time, but you know, it's a new family. There's about, I don't know, 5 guys that live there. And we know the house that's doing the donuts and the speeding. And I did call the police, but I don't know if they came. They never contacted me back. So that's just something, you know, I'd like to know is, do they have to be present? The other thing is, since it takes about a year to get some of these projects done, could maybe the Traffic and Transportation Department use volunteers that might be able to help in that process? Because a lot of it sounds like it's tedious work. And there might be people that are willing to work with the department to at least go through some of that paperwork and calling, and I don't know, I guess it would be up to maybe David Jacobs, I'm not sure. But, you know, I know there's probably some volunteers that they're really interested, they'll want to help out. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Sort of like Habitat for Humanity for traffic calming. I would worry a little about liability, you know, or something like that. Okay, why don't we now, any final comments from commissioners? That was really the extent of our agenda, but before we wrap for the night, is there any other comments, reports back from your district, or anything else you'd like to add tonight?
On any subject, not just traffic calming?
Well, traffic and transportation related. Commissioner Guerra?
Yeah, I had all my questions answered tonight. I really appreciate the information given, because I do have a lot of constituents in my neighborhood that are waiting for things to get done, and now I know it's going to take a while, and I appreciate that you went in depth and explained that, which I can do that with the pictures I haven't provided. I will provide to them. That's pretty much it. And if we can probably try to get a blinking beacon light, is it called a beacon light?
Like a lighted intersection?
Yeah. On Laurel, and I believe it's Granada. I know somebody got killed last year, and someone got hit the year before. Just something I've requested the last couple of meetings I've been here, the last 2 or 3 meetings I've been here, to maybe have that put into the system, or if I can write it up for that community and get the signatures, I'd be happy to do it. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Peterson?
I'm going to start with something I forgot in the last agenda item, and that's a great traffic calming device, from my point of view, is bicycle boulevards. And we've got, since the traffic engineer used to work in Palo Alto, and Palo Alto has the Ellen Fletcher Bicycle Boulevard, which is just beautiful. 6 miles of landscaping, basically. And he knew Ellen, I knew Ellen, quite fortunately. And that's a great example of what can be done. They aren't all, like CSUMB did some that weren't in the same league, but they called them bicycle boulevards, but it works. Could we have, and I don't want to make a big thing out of this, but I know the police department is contracting for bicycle safety. And I was wondering if we could have some information on that. Maybe not a formal presentation, because the police are kind of short-handed. But what's going on with that, and what's going on with other bicycle safety, and that would get into e-bikes. And I'm going to conclude with an item that is not directly a Salinas item, but is an e-bike item. A few weeks ago, there was a fatal crash in Atherton on an arterial. It was a guy riding an e-bike to work at Middle Atherton High School. And this kind of hit home because it was literally on my route to school when I was a kid, and a couple hundred feet from where I took piano lessons. So I know the area. And it turns out the guy who was killed had been a student of a very close friend of mine who's now a retired teacher. But what happened, as far as the news reports go, is a garbage truck made a right turn. And that's where he was. And it was not Republic, but that kind of crash scares the socks off me, especially since I know the area. It was an arterial. I've been on that street for, a long time. And I'm just hoping that whatever we do, we can, it's awfully hard to change behavior with facilities, but I'm hoping we don't get anything like that, and I hope they don't get anything more. So it's a lousy way to finish the evening, but thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hammer?
I have a random question. So we have a lot of roads that are over capacity. Do we have roads that are under capacity or I'm sorry, overbuilt? And if you have, is there a plan for these overbuilt facilities, or do we just sort of let them be and become racetracks?
We do have some roads that, like you say, are overbuilt, where the right-of-way is much bigger than it needs to be. And we have implemented, I know that north of Laurel, right, there's an area where we did implement traffic calming, where we did stripe, and we basically said, the road's this wide, but you can only use this much. So the thing is, yes, our roadways are crowded. Unfortunately, some of these that have a lot more space are not the roadways that are connected. So we can't even use them as, they're not collectors, they're not arterials. But they are streets where we do take a look at specifically for problems like those.
Case in point, I mean, I keep picking on the same place, I think, but Natividad with 3 lanes going each way, and one of the lanes has the Cheros on it, which I love, and this is for me mostly. This intersection is closer for me because I ride my bike there on Romy and Pajaro. That intersection there is just extremely wide, and people between Catherine and Romy, they fly through there, and I'm on my bike, and I'm kind of like, okay, well, there's 25 feet between us, which is cool, but it also makes the people very brave and think they can pass me at 40 miles an hour. And then, but anyway, so having some sort of a mechanism in place to get rid of or to not use overbuilt infrastructure and confine people a little bit more might help with the people speeding around corners or around streets or whatnot. Thank you. That's the only comment I have.
Okay. Commissioner Hernandez?
Yeah, Yolanda, what you brought up, the speeding in that area, is there any way we can have like a police commander come to our meetings every so often, and they can hear what's going on in the streets, and that will kind of help, I think. They will open their eyes, and that safety-wise for children. So
Kendra.
we can look into that. possible. Thank you so much, everybody.
If I may, back in the Stone Age when I was on this commission the first time, for quite a while we had a police sergeant coming to the meetings. And it was the traffic sergeant, so it was probably better than the commander. And the problem we ran into was we'd have like one question, you know, maybe that. I have fond memories of seeing the particular sergeant, somebody I like too, get woke up at a meeting. And it just, as useful as it was for the 2 or 3 minutes, we've got short-handed police, it's expensive, and I think it would be the idea if we could pull it off, but I'm being a little bit of devil's advocate here. The information they've got is amazing, and that would be an advantage. Thank you.
Leo and I are both on the Police Advisory Committee, and we're going to have our first meeting, I think, on the 23rd. I finally, pardon me? Finally, yes. I talked to the chief the last meeting, and he congratulated me, and I didn't know that I had been approved because they do a background check, and I thought, well, maybe they found something that I don't know. But anyway, so we're going to have our first meeting, and which will be good because we'll have that special contact to the police to have them at our meetings. So that would be great. Leo and I are both going to be there. Did you know about that, Leo? Oh, okay. Well, just like I didn't know, that's what Chief Acosta told me. So,
Thank you. That should help.
First meeting in June.
Oh, good. Thanks for that update.
Thank you.
Well, and I think your comment to Commissioner Peterson's comment about maybe getting an update from the police about that traffic safety grant they got, you know, at a near future meeting would be great. And my questions then, you know, since we had a couple things about parking, the city is not yet doing citations for the daylighting law, correct? And maybe remind us what that is?
Correct. So the daylighting law, that's basically the law that began this year, where if someone is parked within 15 feet of an intersection, 15 and 20 depending on, 15 with a curb extension, 20 if there's not a curb extension. Thank you for the clarification. That's when basically it's state law that you cannot park within that. That's automatically, you know, no parking zone. So that's the daylighting law that went into effect this year. The city at this point is not enforcing that. We are still in the warning phases of it. So any traffic enforcement that parking enforcement that happens, it's basically giving people warnings.
Will the city then be painting those spots red? Or those?
No, that would just take too much effort, and we don't have the resources, either manpower or you know,
Money.
financial resources. What we are doing is we are analyzing all the areas where we do have red zones near the returns to make sure that those abide by the law. So a lot of that actually happens in the downtown area where we do have some, and if what we're looking at is all those, some of them are very small. So we're basically gonna be coming through and needing to, you know, redesignate some of those parking stalls.
Great. And then to Yolanda's point about parking on a curve, maybe that's something, you know, taking a look at that spot specifically and, you know, seeing, but is that, I know it's hard, you know, as a car driver when you are, you know, trying to do something like that. Is that oftentimes warrant a red zone, or it just depends on the nature of the street, the structure of the
It
street?
really depends on the nature of the street. If it's a visibility concern, right, that is something we would take a look at. But keep in mind also, a lot of parked cars means people don't feel as comfortable driving through there. That means they're going to drive slower.
Yeah, thank you. And then to the point about the intersection comments that were brought up previously and tonight, what is the process for that? Because we're hearing from residents in our areas about a desire for, hey, can we have this improvement? Is that something then maybe you talk about as a staff and then go out and look at that spot? And does it meet our crosswalk policy? Obviously, there's a huge cost to those, I know that. And then, how does maybe a project like that actually kind of get on a list or get traction?
So are you talking about stop signs, or are you talking about like a raised intersection?
No, I think I'm just looking at, because I noticed in the minutes from, when did you last meet? April, and then tonight, there's just been some comments about a desire for improvements at some crosswalks for safety, but yet again, like traffic calming, there's going to be so many, and it's costly. How do those start getting, analyzed or considered for potential improvements down the road, either as part of a grant opportunity or a Safe Routes to School thing?
We do. We actually met with one of our consultants today because we actively have our consultants and ourselves looking at various grants and grant opportunities. We do have documents that we've presented to you. The Safe Routes to School, Vision Zero. We have the active transportation plan, which was, I believe, just last year, right, that we brought to you. So we have a number of plans that we basically have had a consultant go through, or ourselves go through, and kind of put together a plan where we say, these areas here are a concern. We're going to move forward with these when we get the money. But now that we have approved plans, we're chasing down grants. We're chasing down that money to make those improvements.
Okay, great, thank you. One last.
You just made me think on the active transportation that Salinas is like 6 months ahead of the rest of Monterey County, but TAMC is currently going around having meetings in various cities. I went to the one in Delray Oaks and the one in, they've been having them, but TAMC's doing it because I think also Monterey's ahead. But we're like 6 months ahead of the rest of the county, which is kind of neat. And there is a meeting regarding FORTAG in Marina next Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that's part of their regional Vision Zero work too. Yeah, it's great. So I think then that concludes that portion of the meeting. And before we adjourn, we'll check for attendance for next month. Is everybody available? Okay, wouldn't miss all that discussion. And then next month, I believe, there's elections, right, for chair and vice chair. So be thinking about whether you want to step into that role and be prepared for nominations. Yep. And as vice chair, So anyway, I think with that, then we will adjourn tonight's meeting. And thank you all so much. And look out for your neighbor and be kind to each other. Thank you.